It's Wednesday, the 25th of September 2024, and in this evening's show, we catch up on the All Guts 2-1 victory at the Valley on Saturday, and also yesterday's surprisingly comfortable win at Huddersfield, which marks 3 wins out of 3 in the league for Brucie, who has certainly been playing his cards right since he took over the Bloomfield Road managerial reins. I'm John Aspinall, and this is the Seaside's podcast extra time show. Didn't he do well? Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Seasiders podcast on a Wednesday. Was initially planned to happen this on Monday to review the Charlton game. However, Richard Branson and his fantastic company Virgin Media had different ideas with a mass outage in the northwest of Manchester, putting paid to that, Nick, didn't it? And some unhappy campers in our panellists WhatsApp group at the late cancellation.
Well, I think, yeah, you gave it every chance, didn't you? But unfortunately, couldn't go ahead, and tethering to 4G, I don't think would have worked too well. So, but it all worked out well in the end, didn't it? Because here we are, and we've got 2 fantastic away wins to talk about, rather than 1.
That was Nick. Matt, similar surname is also with us. Good evening, Matt. Good to have you back.
Good evening.
You're on the road to recovery, and I believe you're on the flight to recovery, actually, all the way to Turkey on a bit trip. So you're not that ill then, are you, really?
No, not really. No. 3 weeks almost post procedure, I guess is the word that I'm after. Managed to squeeze a few days away in Istanbul, which was always planned, but it was just touch and go whether I could get there because of the visit to the Vic. But all good, survived both, and almost as healthy as our team at the moment. So that's all good.
Finally, Brad's joined us again. Brad came on when the Steve Bruce appointment was announced. One of many dissenting voices, Brad. You're not alone, so don't feel too guilty. But we are only on three games in, aren't we?
I've still got 2 games to go, John. Still got 2 games to go. The clown outfit is firmly in the wardrobe at the moment. It's getting dusted off as we speak. Get the jester going.
Speaking of outfits, as you can see, I'm sporting my new 3rd white home shirt. A present from my sister. And Brad is also sporting a 3rd shirt from an era in the 90s, but it's the one with the tangerine armbands almost. And everyone who's watching this stream, who does that player remind you of, that kit? Get your comments in the chat, and let's go with Matt first. What's the first player that you think of when you see that strip?
What year are we talking? It's sort of
need to see the sponsor.
Stand up a bit.
Is it?
Give us a twirl.
The signature might give it away.
Yeah. Oh God, I'm useless with this sort of shit.
Just think of a player. Think of a player from the era.
Ian Gore.
I think that's a long time before. Nick.
Yeah, I think it is, isn't it? Oh Christ, I can't think.
I thought
was
Steve
it more
for some reason Steve Bushell came into my head.
or Hillsey? That about then, was it?
Hillsey from
There
Bison.
you go, Bisons.
And Beasis Clarkson.
Great minds.
Clarkson, yeah, that's a good shout. The Ghost.
Bully.
I was thinking John Murphy, but I might be literally thinking out of the box on that one.
Danny Coyd.
Coyd, yeah.
War versus Kidminster away 4-1. That was our turning point.
Friday night, wasn't it, that?
Steve McMahon started the revolution.
Not long after the infamous 7-0 away at Barnet, which I was at.
Me too.
Everybody was at that.
I was.
No claim to fame, that, John. The largest attendance of Blackpool fans in history, that.
There was more at Barnet than there was at Wembley for the Dubois fight at the weekend, wasn't it?
A badge of honour worn by many Blackpool fans. I remember ripping off my Tally West home shirt. Took it off and was kicking it around the car park, stamping on it after that game. But yeah, what a turnaround that season was. Right, let's get on with the show. So first up, we've got Charlton away. We've gone to Charlton. I didn't go there with a great deal of hope, to be honest, but how wrong I was. Where do we start, Nick? We started well
on the front foot.
Yeah, that's it. Go on.
4-4-2 again. Everybody playing in the positions they should be in. No crazy inverted wingers or daft formations or anything like that. And from the off, we looked great. I mean, to play under Critchley quite often, we started off well for 10 minutes, then it went pear-shaped. But we just, under Bruce, we just seemed the players seem so comfortable in what they're being asked to do, and that system is working so well for all of them. We were on the front foot from the off and creating chances, and fully deserved, to go in front when we did. You've got your little stats graph up there if you want to talk people through it.
No, not really. That's what you lot are here for. Brad, over to you. Charlton away. Just the goals.
I think the biggest, takeaway, John, is the possession side. We had an even match with Charlton in terms of possession, but the shots, the more clinical. There's no half job with it. They literally had a plan. I think one thing that I will take away, and I think I can relate to both the matches, because I didn't see the Charlton game, but I seen a good portion of the highlights, and I saw a lot of similarities to the Huddersfield game. The ball control, how they controlled the game, how they dynamically went up the wings, and how getting Joseph going and obviously getting the goals that was needed. There was a lot more confidence going into that game, and it surprised me when I was looking at the stats, and I was like, wow, okay, that's quite impressive how they finished the game and how they controlled the game as well. So to say that, Critch was very controllable in possession, he says, well, if we get possession, we'll ultimately get a goal. Well, that wasn't necessarily the case, was it? With how Brucie's worked, he's literally had a game plan. Okay, 50-50 on possession. We don't need any more possession. Literally comes straight through, and he's delivered.
Matt, over to you. We've gone 1-0 up from a hopeful ball into the box from Apter, and what's his name? Ahadme, whatever his name was. He's kindly headed it into the goal for us under pressure from Joseph, and then 4 minutes later, dreamland really. Albie Morgan starting and finishing the move, obviously assisted by CJ. What a revelation CJ's been, really, and when he's gone to the left back, and a great moment for Albie Morgan returning to Charlton. He's been getting stick last 2 seasons he's been there, and what a great way to ram that back down the throats with a superlative finish. Driven shot low, hard and left to the keeper's right.
Well, we're at 9 minutes into the pod, and John's forgotten that I wasn't there on Saturday. Even in the country.
I'll jump in, John.
However, I will just quickly regale that we were on the family were on a nice boat trip down the Bosphorus Strait in Turkey, in Istanbul, and I somehow managed to get Wi-Fi from the yacht that we were on. And I was continually looking at my phone and getting bollockings off the wife every 3 or 4 minutes. Are you looking at that football again? Are you looking at that football again? No. But that's all I could do was watch BBC Online, I'm afraid. That's my input to this match.
Okay.
As good as it was.
I'd say, I think,
Nick.
Well, obviously it's an own goal, but it certainly, wasn't against a run of play. We deserved it with the way we play. Brad mentioned how impressed he was with the way we were moving the ball. And there was one spell in the first half where Evans he took it from the defender, moved it forward, took it back. And we were literally just playing round them. They couldn't get near to us. And they had a 3 as well against our 2. And obviously, quite often in that situation, you're outnumbered and it can go pear shaped. But Morgan and Evans just ran the show. And when you think how long Morgan had been out for, Norburn had been playing well, and you think, is it going to take Morgan a little bit of time to get his fitness up and get used to what he's been asked to do? Well, he looked like they'd been playing together for 2 or 3 seasons. It was a seamless handover, if you like. And for the goal, it's a bit of luck, but it was a hell of a header, to be fair. It was one of our players scoring it. You'd be absolutely loving it, but it was well deserved. And like you say, CJ on the left hand side, it's his best position. He can be inconsistent, but in that left wing role, is where he's going to be most effective. And it helped that we had the space for him to get in behind when teams set up the way Charlton and Huddersfield did. And CJ's got that space to run into. That's when he's most effective. To go 2-0 up, it was well deserved. Morgan's finish was superb. He was getting a little bit of stick from the crowd. So I'm sure he absolutely loved to be able to go back there and stick it in the back of the net. And it was a very composed finish and thoroughly deserved to be 2-0 up.
So we've gone in, Nick just said there, 2-0 at half time. Nick, just coming back to you into the second half. 10 minutes in, we've looked quite tidy, but then we've had an absolute worldie of a save from Tyrer, who's tipped around that free kick, and then CJ continuing his great form, slipped in by Ballard, I think it was, wasn't it? And very unlucky just to see his shot come back of the angle of the post and back to safety. But again, CJ playing 20 yards higher up the pitch where he should be and on his correct side. He's a different player, isn't he?
He is, and we're not asking him to do things like try and be a defender. You know what his strengths are, and we're certainly playing to them. I think he's another player. I think they all have under Bruce of, we're getting the best out of them. They just look so comfortable with what they're being asked to do, and the team, injuries aside, it's pretty much picking itself, isn't it? Really, with the position that they're being asked to play in. Unlucky with that chance. I think the keeper did he get a slight touch on it from memory?
He did, yeah.
Tyrer made a very, very good save second half, and as we'll come on to talk about against Huddersfield, where he made a couple of really good saves as well. He's looked a little bit nervy at times on crosses for me, but he's a young lad. He's stepped up a level, and I think he's starting to settle into it.
Look at that stat there from Dave Hart, CJ. Last 5 games, 4 goals and 1 assist. Brad, we joked that CJ will be winning the Ballon d'Or about 6 months ago. Carry this form up, CJ, and he's got to be up there, surely.
There's only one way up, isn't there? I seeing CJ play, he's got the confidence. I think one thing that we can take away, obviously, when we were talking about on the last pod when I was on, is I criticised Brucie's tactics from obviously on my days watching Aston Villa when he was a manager for them. The way he's obviously took a time out and he's gone and watched Barcelona, or he's gone and talked to Pep, or something, because he's completely changed how he plays his mindset. He used to play a long ball all the time. He used to have big defenders, used to make a hoof it, and then have someone to try and header it and try and get in the box as much as they can. Whereas what he's doing at the moment, and he's done it in the last 3 games. Okay, Sheffield Wednesday wasn't exactly, it was a championship team. It was a good test for us to gauge where we could be with the squad, because we've been talking about it for months. We've got a good squad. It's unfortunately Critch didn't actually develop the squad and nurtured them and supported them and coached them in and how he wanted to play football. And we could understand what he was trying to do, but he couldn't execute it. Whereas when Brucie's come into the fold, he's clearly took advice from Dobby and Kewan in terms of how they've managed the squad, how the guys tick, because at the moment it's working like clockwork, which is a really big thing at the moment. And the lads are seeing it, and because they're seeing it, they've got the confidence to make the touch, make the pass. And I'll probably go more about it in the Huddersfield game, because I watched the whole game and I was really dissecting how he's trying to do it tactically. But the only time there was a long ball was when we were trying to play from the back when we didn't really have an option. Whereas Critchley tried to keep the ball and then ultimately us conceding, But even then, with the ball control coming back, what I liked about it was he had options down the wing. We had, we were going up there. Joseph was making the runs. Ballard was having a fantastic game, and Morgan in particular in Charlton, he was phenomenal. I thought he was absolutely fantastic when I saw the highlights and I looked at his stats. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. But Brucie really has literally gone to the Bahamas. I don't know where he's gone. I'm not a stalker or anything like that at all. But he's obviously gone and took a time out of the game, watched the game, how it's being played, seen what's working, and he's come in and he's looked at the squad and gone, do you know what? I fancy this. I think we've got a really good squad. We've got Dobby and Kieran in from the wings, feeding all this information for him. And he literally said what he set out to do. He didn't have to change the whole squad. He only had to make certain tweaks. And those tweaks have made a massive difference in the confidence. And it's really great to see. I'll eat my words. I'll when I come up the pool and that, and someone starts pointing at me saying, clown, I'll start bowing down saying, yeah, poison words.
To be fair, Brad, everyone, I'd say 90% of the fan base was saying the same thing pretty much.
There were one or two who didn't mind him. I could dig out the WhatsApp messages from that night. I think there was me, Lee, one or two others in amongst all of the anger and demanding refunds of season tickets and the like.
One swallow doesn't make a summer. Let's see where.
No, we've got to try not to get carried away. Although it does feel like going to Charlton and then to Huddersfield and to have two such dominant and deserved performances and deserved wins, it does kind of, like Steve Bruce says, that he expects both of them to be up there come the end of the season. And we've really taken it to them. So it's great to see that it's not all about, it's the opposition. And, it's a little bit of, well, they can worry about us because we're going to turn up and we're going to get on the front foot and play football. And two fully deserved wins. So I think it does make a bit of a statement to the rest of the division. Got to follow it up on Saturday and be careful it isn't after Lord's Mayor's show, which we've all seen many times over the years. And I'm sure he will be having that conversation on the training ground this week that, look, two brilliant wins, but the next one now is the hard game on Saturday where you might get a Burton team who turn up and park the bus, and we've got to try and find a different way of winning there if we're not getting the space down the wings. So, we'll be confident, and it was two statement wins.
Yes. Mark, luckily for many, it's disappearing messages on the WhatsApp group. That's why I turned it on.
I was certainly a Homer Simpson, literally trying to go back into the hedge.
Back into the hedge, yeah.
I just wanted to mention, John, going back to the Charlton game, their fans were quite aggrieved. If you looked on social media, not necessarily the fact that we'd beaten them. I think they were saying, Blackpool deserved the win, which we did. It was more our perceived gamesmanship, shall we say, in the second half. And, the fact is, we had players who were injured and they were down for quite a while.
Minutes? Was it 12 minutes?
It was 12 minutes of injury time, yeah. I think there was a fire, wasn't there? Gabriel was down for a while, then Jordan Rhodes. And also the ref, who deserves a mention because, we're quite often quick to criticise him, although he could have given one of their players and should have given one of their players a second yellow. But he didn't really bow down to a lot of the, the calls from the home crowd, which can quite often happen. Refs get influenced and try and even things up. But he wasn't having any of that. And again, under Critch, we quite often talked about how we were too nice at times. We saw other teams do it to us when they were winning. You don't want to see time wasting, but at the same time, I think he's probably said to them, look, if you get fouled, go down. So we saw quite a bit of that in the second half, and obviously their fans were a little bit salty about it. But again, it's another thing that I think Bruce is probably he's probably not telling them to feign injuries or anything because they were injured. But you're 2-0 up away from home. It's a little bit of game management, isn't it? And it's something we probably haven't done often enough, in sort of Critch's time in charge. So that was something else that I think was, noticeable for me in the second half.
Let's just mention their goal. Tyrer going from villain to hero. He's made an absolutely top draw save 5-10 minutes just before that with a superb save, and he's unfortunately spilled one. And there was like 6 minutes left of the game, and it was excruciating viewing at times. Not helped by the ref, who seemed determined just to give them one final chance with that absolute joke of a free kick, like on 12 minutes. And I thought, here we go. And but Tyrer,
tell you what else
made amends.
Didn't help, John. You posting the picture of the 2-2 result from last season when we were 2-0 up, and you put just saying, and they made it 2-1, and I was like, if this goes to 2-2, I'm banning you from your own podcast. And then he put 12 minutes up, and you just think, oh no, surely not. And it would have been a massive injustice if they'd have got an equaliser. We weren't hanging on as such or anything, and we fully deserved the 3 points. And thankfully, Tyrer's made the save from the free kick, and we've got the deserved win.
If you look at, let's just quickly go back to the stats before we move on. There we go. Let's get the layout. So if you look at the XG, very Marmite stat this, but I think it is telling, particularly with regards to chances. Obviously, I got a maybe that we've scored an own goal doesn't help. They've had a XG of 2.22, ours is 0.7. Do you think that paints the full picture, Nick, or is that skewed?
I think it's skewed because, like I say, we deserved the win. This wasn't and neither was Huddersfield. It wasn't a soak up pressure for 70 minutes and take your one chance, smash and grab away win. We dominated certainly the first 45 of both games, and were deservedly in front in both of them. The commentary from Charlton and Huddersfield both said it, and you look at their fans on social media, they said it as well. We deserve to win. So stats, you can make stats look certain ways, can't you? The fact is, it's 2 fully deserved wins for me.
Yeah, no argument there. Okay, let's move on to Huddersfield game. Let's go straight to the starting 11, shall we? So obviously a rearranged game from Saturday, which was a ball ache. I was really looking forward to this Saturday game. Couldn't make it. I think a 1,000 or so Hardy fans did. Blackpool lined up as follows for this game: Tyrer, Gabriel. Let's do this properly. KC, Fire, Coulson in for Jimmy Husband, Joseph in the Joseph up top. Sorry, Morgan with the Raptor on the right, Hamilton on the left, and Joseph with Ballard. Yeah. Same starting lineup: Matt, Barr, Coulson coming in for Jimmy, the injured Jimmy. Just a like-for-like change, no pissing around changing to a back 5 or a back 3 or anything from Steve Bruce.
Yeah, and isn't that refreshing that it's square pegs in square holes, isn't it, really? If you've got a left-footed player who can play left back, then you'll stick him in there. Coulson, I think, more of a left wing back at Middlesbrough, and has obviously played that role for us, but switching into left back isn't a massive change at all, really. So yeah, it was actually surprising to see from my perspective. Obviously I wasn't there on Saturday, as I mentioned earlier, and didn't see anything, but when you'd have played 112, 160 on Saturday, and then you pretty much got the same 11, that was a little bit of a surprise, but obviously it sort of worked out well. And like I say, it's square pegs in square holes for a change, and something that we're not sort of used to, really, which is nice and refreshing in itself.
Brad, let's look down the subs list there. A very strong bench: Pennington, Carey, Fletcher, Embleton, Rhodes, and Beasley. O'Donnell, sub-keeper. Good to see. I perceived strength in depth there. There's options to change things should he need to.
It's something that we've never had before. You know, when we've had the previous regime, we didn't have options, and all the subs were predictable. If you had look at other teams that were trying to suss out our game plan, it only took 5 minutes because, you know, the tablet with the iPads, which are probably on auction at the moment, not going for very much, literally are trying to, you know, it's dictating to us how the game's being played. Obviously, Brucie must be using a pen and piece of paper at the moment, putting a diagonal arrow on where to go. And that bench, you know, to have Rhodes on the bench, and obviously, you know, he's a great attacking option, you know. And when you've got Pennington, Carey, and you've got Fletcher, you even got Embleton. You know, I know Embleton's not. I don't think Embleton's fully fit in any way, shape, or form, but he can provide 20, 25 minutes of an impact sub to get where we need to be. And we will talk about it in the match. You've got Beasley as well, you know, so it just adds that added depth in the squad that we need. I was really happy about Coulson. I was quite comfortable about that. Ballard, you know, a fire as well. I thought the lineup last night was really, really good, and I was actually quite comfortable, especially after the performance that we had against Charlton. But yeah, it's and Tyrer as well. I think I was gutted when Grimmy went. I was a massive Grimmy fan, and I wasn't too sure about Tyrer, but the way he's been playing, he's been making some awesome saves in the last games. You know, he's been very unfortunate in some. He should have more clean sheets than he should do before. So yeah, very happy with the lineup, definitely.
Nick, isn't it a refreshing change to look at a lineup and think, get in, I'm looking forward to this game?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And you're not, like I said on the last pod, you're not looking at it trying to work out who's in what position and what formation it is. It's 4-4-2 and everybody in positions that they're comfortable in. You know, there's options off the bench. I would say, I think something you might look at in January is perhaps pace up front for if we take it. So when we're taking Ballard off or Joseph off, we're not bringing on like for like in terms of, you know, that pace that can stretch defences. That's not to say, like Brad says, you know, that it's not good options, and it means we can probably do something a little bit different for the last 20 minutes. But then I say if one of them gets injured, I think Ballard potentially is at the moment with his shoulder last night. I think they're just waiting on an X-ray result. You know, if it's bad news, we're really going to miss him, because even if he's not scoring, I think he really, you know, he stretches defences, and we look a bit weaker when he's off the pitch than on it. So I think there is still work to do in terms of some of the kind of non-starting 11. We saw it a bit, all right, against a Championship side in Sheffield Wednesday, but there perhaps isn't as much strength and depth as maybe Steve Bruce would like. But he's got a transfer window in January to sort that out, and he's been through many of those in his career, hasn't he? But in terms of that starting 11, yeah, very happy. Coulson coming in, that's seamless from Jimmy playing, and as we're going to talk about, he had a very good game, Coulson, as did the 10 of his teammates.
Okay, Matt, over to you. We've started the game with a speculative shot from CJ. He's almost, I'll describe it, passed it into the keeper's hands, if you remember that shot. But it was a positive start again from Blackpool, and CJ's obviously created the assist for the Joseph goal. So CJ involved right from the off once again.
Yeah, absolutely. This was the chance from the through ball on the left hand side of midfield, wasn't it? Where he obviously had a couple of yards ahead of the defender, and then sort of did what CJ can do occasionally, and just sort of almost passed it back to the keeper. There was no real venom in it whatsoever, which is a real shame because it was a nice move. And when the keeper sort of half spilled it, didn't he? And he didn't sort of bother about following it up either, which was a little bit weird. But it wasn't necessarily although it was the first clear-cut chance we had. That was, I don't know what minute that was on, maybe 15 or something like that, maybe even earlier. But But I always felt that in those first 15 minutes, it looked as though we were only just one good pass away from getting through their back three or back five. They didn't look great at the back, and we looked pretty good going forward. It was just that sort of little bit of class that we needed to split their defence open. And then obviously we had that chance and it went, and you just think, oh, for crying out loud, is it going to be one of those type of performances? And then it was only a matter of minutes later when we did score, and it came, like you say, from tenacious work by CJ, which he gets a lot of stick for not being somebody who gets stuck in. Really, he's always a little bit fragile, shall we say, with doing that. Won the ball twice, really, didn't he? Went away and fizzed the ball over, which we have seen in the past can really be fizzed over and go the other end of the area, but. Joseph made a really cute little move just to lose his marker, and from 2 or 3 yards out, whatever it was, just literally just had to make contact. It was a much and well-deserved goal.
Does anyone think it came off his chest, his head? It just went like that. The chance. I was like, what part of his anatomy has put that in?
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I thought head at first, but somebody did mention chest. Whatever it came off, it didn't matter because it was in the back of the net, and like Matt says, it was fully deserved. And yeah, CJ, when he gets in these positions, sometimes it's a toss of a coin whether he gets his head up and delivers the right pass or the wrong one. And thankfully, on this occasion, it was the right one. His confidence is right up at the moment, and it was and he did well to get into the position in the first place. I think, again, the way Huddersfield were playing, it played to our strengths. CJ is at his most effective when he can get in behind like that. If somebody just stands up and they sit back, that's he struggles in that situation. But again, here he had that space to run into and was able to exploit it really well. And fully deserved to be in that position.
Because MB's just said there, Nick, his crossing is getting better, and who'd have thought it'd get better at crossing the ball with his left foot from on the left hand side? Funny that.
Well, yeah. Again, yeah, playing him in his right position certainly helps.
Brad, CJ's made Joseph's goal, and he's bagged one himself at a great time in any football game to score a goal in 45 minutes. It really took the wind out of Huddersfield, and boos were emanating around the John Smith Stadium when that went in, and that's a real sort of knife through the heart for Huddersfield to concede a goal at that time.
Yeah, of course, and it was quite refreshing as well because they were passing the ball. They were passing it effectively. The one thing that was my biggest pet hate, and I remember going to the Charlton game last season, and the way we were playing football, we always kept passing it back to the goalkeeper all the time, and there was just nothing. There was no opportunity. Whereas watching the game last night, they had a plan. They knew where to go, and if that option wasn't available, they had a plan B, and flicking between both avenues. The way CJ was coming up and using his correct right area of where he needs to be, was really, really important. But it was also Joseph making the runs as well. Joseph was just right where he needed to be to slip into Huddersfield's defence, and it worked really, really well. And ultimately led up to where we got into the match. I also wanted to shout out to Ballard as well before he got his injury. I don't know if everyone saw, but if I was watching it on Sky Sports Plus, and you could see Kieran's reaction as if he looked like he saw a ghost. So my initial thought with Ballard when he was down, he was like, "Oh, what's going on here?" Because he was holding onto his shoulder, of course, and we didn't have any information, and the commentary was saying something about his shoulder as well. But he was confident the way he was passing the ball as well. And it was just all complementing each other really, really well. And to be fair, all the players had a decent game. That we had a few moments where we might have dropped off, especially in the second half. But in terms of, the midfield, we looked really, really strong. And we seem to have controlled the game really, really well. And one thing that I did like is normally when we lose the ball, we go on the back foot straight away. Well, when Huddersfield had the ball, we were completely fine. We'll go, okay, we're just going to go and win the second ball and get the ball back. And then we started again. And then ultimately we started pushing more and more forward to ultimately get us the second goal that we needed before half time, which was absolutely phenomenal.
Matt, let's go into the second half then. As Brad sort of mentioned or alluded to there, the Ballard injury, he succumbed to it in the end and replaced by Ashley Fletcher. I think Fletcher's definitely a Marmite character. Some love him, some hate him, but I did notice his work rate compared to Ballard and his speed. He's what's the word? Dartiness. That's not the word, is it? Across, his bite, just complete chalk and cheese, and it made a massive difference up there with Joseph. All right, Fletcher's good at holding the ball up, but apart from that, I want to see more from him, and we've got to see more from him.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was very similar to Cambridge when Ballard went off, and we just sort of collapsed. As not necessarily as a result of Ballard coming off, but we just sort of ran out of ideas a little bit going forward. He gives us great mobility, doesn't he, Ballard? And yeah, I sort of echo the thoughts that were mentioned earlier about sort of the lack of similar options, should we say, off the bench. Beasley, Fletcher, Rhodes, they're sort of similar in many ways. They're not the sort of dynamic run the channel types of forwards that obviously has brought us this little bit of success at the moment. So hopefully he'll be fit come Saturday. But we're in the lap of the gods with regards to that one. Fletcher's he's still got a lot to prove, hasn't he? Really, he had that missed penalty a few weeks back and missed a header at home against Wickham, I think it was. So, yeah, he's very much, question marks are over him at the moment. But, he's our player. So let's just see what happens if he does start. Presumably may start on Saturday. He seems to be getting the nod over Beasley and Rhodes off the bench at the moment. So we'll see. But, jury's out at the moment. But it is what it is. We'll just keep our fingers crossed over Ballard.
Do you think it's a confidence issue?
I don't know. I mean, his record doesn't tell it that his confidence is.
Yeah. No,
it could be anything, couldn't it? Really. I mean, he's had big price tags, in the last few years, hasn't he? And maybe there's a sort of element of pressure on him there, perhaps. And you would think he's one of those players that might be sort of in the last chance saloon, dare I say, in terms of playing at a decent level and getting decent wages out of a football club. So, he's got to, as John says, he's got to give us more and do more for the team, hasn't he? And maybe the penny will drop and that'll bring the best out of him. And let's be honest, I don't think somebody like Steve Bruce will stand for it if he doesn't put his 100% in. And I don't think he's not necessarily not putting 100% in, but he just gives you that impression. He's a little bit languid, isn't he? Sometimes, So we'll see. We'll see.
Nick, do you attribute, if you look at the momentum graph there, again for the benefit of the audio, I say it was 50-50 in the first half, peaks and troughs for either side, but then if you look into the second half for Huddersfield, it was pretty much all blue, all the peaks coming into blue, very few tangerine troughs in there, and it does seem to coincide with the introduction of Fletcher and the loss of Ballard as an attacking outlet.
Yeah, it certainly had an impact. I also think, and Steve Bruce alluded to it, that, I think as the home side, they had a heavy defeat on Saturday, the 2-0 down to us at half time. They've probably had a flea in their ear. So you expect a reaction. And to a degree, they got that, although I never really felt like too worried about it. I still think we brought the ball out well when we could. We just lacked a bit of an attacking threat. But yeah, you sort of expect that to a certain degree in the second half for the home team. They've got to try and do something, haven't they? I mean, Tyler's had to make 2 or 3 very good saves in the second half. The one particularly that he tipped over was outstanding. But I also thought we defended really well when we needed to. We'll come on to talk about the man of the match, and there's there's a few of the defenders, I think, who are in the conversation. So that's the other side of the game, isn't it? It can't just all be about attacking, and you potentially, certainly away from home against a team who you'd expect to be around the top 6. You're not going to get it all your own way for 90 minutes, the same as we didn't against Charlton. That's not to say we didn't deserve to win, because we absolutely did.
Okay, let's, as Nick said, not really, we can't really say much about the second half from an attacking point of view from Blackpool. We didn't create much, but I think, as Nick said, we just dealt with whatever Huddersfield chucked at us. I was never worried like I was with the Charlton game. I think we just kept them on the lines, Billy. I think Casey particularly was superb, as was a fire at the back, two absolute rocks. But let's go on to do player ratings for this game. I think we're all more qualified to talk about the players' performance. We have seen the game, so let's get the graphic back up, the layout back up. Let's start with you, Matt. Right, who's dropped off? Nick's just gone. You start off with Tyrer, Matt.
Yeah, but first time, was it the first time I've seen him? I'm trying to think now. Mine's all over the place with what's happened to me personally over the last few weeks. But yeah, I thought he did really well. Handling and shot stopping is what you'd expect. Tipped one over the bar, which is a nice save. Looks like he's getting a bit more confidence in himself and what's in front of him. Yeah, didn't do an awful lot wrong. Thought his distribution was pretty good. I heard a few things on various forums about his distribution being a bit dodgy, but to me, I thought he didn't really put a foot wrong last night, to be honest. So, yeah, I think it's a good 8 out of 10, really.
Yep, fair enough. Brad, let's move on to Jordan Gabriel, who very nearly slotted one in at the death to make it 3-0. But with Gabriel, again, he's one of several transformed players, sans Critchley.
Yeah, I think if it was under the Critch regime, he wouldn't be having the game that he had last night. Not at all. Bruce has done something to him, and the coaching staff, they've breathed confidence into him, and he does look like a completely different player. And to be fair, I do feel as though he is a championship player when he's having his day. For me, I think
he's an absolute athlete as well, isn't he, Brad?
100%. He does not stop. He's hungry for it, and I think him and Fletcher need to have an ice cold bath together just to share the confidence between themselves. But literally, it's refreshing, and what we've been, what you guys have been saying on the pod and everything, and what we've been saying in the podcast WhatsApp group, Mark's just said it right. Playing him at the right back, it helps massively, and he's a man of a match in my opinion, and how well he controlled the element. Because in the second half, Huddersfield, they dominated. They always did, but Gabriel always got the ball, always passed it to CJ. It was always a partnership that worked really, really well. So I think without him and his confidence, I think the outcome would have been significantly different in this match. My rating, if I could work in halves, I'd give an 8.45 all day long, or a 8+, as Tim.
I was just about
with a certain vintage.
Just about to kick you from the studio there, Brad, for the incorrect application of the fielding.
I know.
Player
I was
rating
waiting
system,
for you
but
to say something. 8+.
Brought yourself back from the brink.
Just testing you, John. Just testing you.
Matt,
8+,
Odell, a fire.
Yeah, first time I've seen him. He just looks a player. He just looks a really good player, doesn't he?
He's got the lot, hasn't he, for a 21-year-old?
He has, yeah. I mean, he's got everything. He reminds me of, he reminds me of like Danny Shittu's little brother, but can actually pass the ball. He's just solid. He gets the ball clear if he needs to clear it. He can ping a decent pass. He's obviously got a lot of pace. It's obviously in the family, I guess.
You can't beat him in a foot race, from what I've seen.
No,
so far.
Definitely not. No, not from what we've seen. And it's funny, really. I mean, you could talk about Casey in a second, Brad, but to not really hear either name in commentary for a long period of time says a lot about how good they were in sort of keeping their their front 2-3, whatever it was, at bay. So I'll go for another 8 out of 10. Really, I'm probably being a bit mean with that as well. To be honest,
you are
8+ then. 8+.
PRS it.
Yeah, 8+ then.
And as the said inventor of such a system has been chirping up in the comments, he's had a long day at work today and couldn't come on the pod. Mr. Tim Fielding, who'd have thought Casey would prove to be such a great defender? Ian Everett-esque. Again, since Critchley has been booted through the door, in my opinion. Brad, what was your opinion on his performance yesterday? Rock as ever.
He's reliable at the moment, and it's exciting
in a back four.
In a back four, if he's in a 3, God help us all. And he's like, like Benny Hill with the music on. Do you know what I mean?
It ruined Marv, didn't it? That system. It'd be interesting to see Marv in this 4-4-2.
I think we were craving for 4 we was craving for 4 for months, and for some strange and sarcastic reason, I don't know why Critch was doing it with all these badges that he's got. I think I'm putting it down to QPR personally. But literally, the back 4 is so solid at the moment. Every time, I see that, Charlton or Huddersfield going to the attack, I'm feeling comfortable, especially in the net with the way Tyrer was making the nets. But with terms of Casey, it's just a breath of fresh air. It's the confidence again. Brucie has obviously worked with that, and he's got this system working really, really well. And we're very dynamic as a result. And yeah, my score for Casey.
I personally think Matt was a bit. I think Matt should have gone 9- with a fire personally.
I'm bordering at 8+ or minus. I'm going to go with you, John, because I want to go on the pod again. So yeah, 9-.
Right, over to the left back in the system, Matt. Hayden Coulson in for Jimmy. Completely different type of player, but what a difference he made. High energy in that position.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going forward.
Yeah, everything you want out of a left back, really, isn't it? It was a bit strange, really, because he must have won more headers last night as a left back than he has in how many games he played for us so far, 40 games, whatever he's played for us, including last year, as a left wing back stroke left winger. But he defended really well. He can obviously play like a more of an attacking player. That's obviously one of his strengths. So giving him the ball was never going to be a problem, whether that was in, just in front of the sort of like the 18-yard line or further forward. So you never looked, you never sort of were sort of, behind your eye, behind your hand, behind your eye, eyes behind your hand, even sort of scared that he was going to screw it up or something. And I thought, considering it was his first probably game at left back, I thought he was really, really good. And it'll be tricky to see what happens if Husband's fit on Saturday, really, because he doesn't really deserve to drop, does he? So I thought he was really, really good, actually. So I'm going to give him the 9-, actually.
Ooh. So
very nice.
I think.
What I will say, just as collective for the back 4, I know we're doing pushing for time, rattling on as we are. What I will say about the back 4, it was refreshing. One of the things I picked up on when I was watching last night was it's 4 or 5 passes between them, and then if nothing's on, it either goes long or it goes into midfield and they knock it down the channels. It's none of this, like you say, possession bollocks football that we've been used to.
Moving the opposition.
Turn the bloody opposition. Never mind, move the opposition, and that's what we were doing really well. So I think they would like to play football. Yeah, we all want to be bloody Brazil or whatever, but it's League One at the end of the day, and if there's nothing on, just go a bit old school. And I think that's something that's immediately Steve Bruce's sort of stamp on it. So yeah, I thought they were excellent, the whole back 4 last night, and keeper.
But you could see it in the second half. Yeah, we had the pressure from Huddersfield, but when we got the possession back from Tyrer, either it was going to Casey and then it was going to CJ to see if he'd get it up the wing. And if it wasn't working, instead of hoofing it they're recycling the ball again and then going back to the left.
Yeah.
It was working really, really well. And Huddersfield didn't actually have an idea in how to dissect our strategy at all. They couldn't come up with a plan. It was only when the subs was starting to come on where they were trying to figure out a way to try and sort it out. Obviously, with Ballard going as being subbed, and we'll discuss about Fletcher very shortly, but we seem to have had an answer. And I think that was something that we have lacked for a long, long time. And the one thing that I'll take away from last night was looking at Brucie, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but how calm he looked walking up and down. How he was telling the players, he was encouraging the players to go in a certain way, and the team was buying it. And that was the biggest takeaway for me. And that's brilliant. That never happened at Villa. He was too busy screaming and shouting because no one wanted to listen to him. This team wants to listen to him. So it's obviously worked.
Could be a case of a big fish in a little pond as opposed to being a little fish in a big pond at the Villa.
Big fish, more like a bloody shark.
Right into the midfield. Albie Morgan, Matt.
I'll give it Brad because I just did Coulson, didn't I?
Oh, go on then,
Yeah.
He was brilliant. His creative play. He was always trying to make the pass. He was trying to go left, trying to go right. He was trying to slip through the ball through to get to Joseph. If we keep him fit, which I firmly believe that we are this season, if we got the right strategy in place and we use the subs to our advantage, he's going to be a phenomenal player for us this season.
I think it's testament to him as a character, the fact he's been out for so long, and you compare him and Embleton. Morgan looks like he's not been out whatsoever. He's come straight back in and he's made an instant impact and he's right up there with it. Obviously, it's not as serious injury as Embleton, but yeah, it's impressive what he's doing on that pitch considering he's been out for so long.
100%. And it'll be interesting to see how the games go along on how he develops his game, because he's going to be developing no matter what. If he's coming in like this from an injury that he's just had, he's got a long season ahead of him. He's only going to get better if we keep him fit. There's no two ways about it. Really impressive in his confidence, his ball handling. I don't know if anyone saw it in the game, but the way he was running, and you've got the defence obviously coming. I think it was Casey that passed the ball to him, but he flicked it on the back of his foot just to gain the control, and he controlled the ball, and that was just a confidence. And that was the deciding factor to me saying, this team is really confident right now. They're doing things that they never would have done under Critchley. They wouldn't have felt confidence to it. They wouldn't want to do it, and he was trying to make the play up as he went along. And it was really good, I have to say. My score for him would be a 9-.
Dave Hart's said in the chat, in Evans and Morgan, we have one of the best midfields in the division. And Lee Evans, Matt, has got to be one of the best midfielders in this division. The guy just oozes class, and on show again yesterday.
Solid 9.
Was he was captain last night, wasn't he? I think Evans. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. You can imagine that he's. He is captain material at the end of the day, isn't he? He's got that experience, and he's a very, very good player. I would argue that he had a good solid game last night, and some might think he was really, really up there for a man of the match performance. A couple of times I thought he might be holding himself back in a few potential challenges, given that he's hovering over a suspension at the moment. In the second half, especially, there was one or two where Huddersfield players went sort of round him a little bit too easy than I would have liked a midfielder to go around. But overall, he's a quality player, and he's got a great passing range, hasn't he, which gets us out of trouble a lot of times. And obviously his dead balls are really good. A good solid 8 for me.
Nick, you're back.
Apologies. Laptop completely crashed and has got some error message on it. So I've had to resort to my iPhone. So apologies for the sound quality. I was waxing lyrical there about how we saw the game out in the second half, thinking sounds all right. Then realised nobody was. I don't know what point I cut out, but then realised you'd all frozen, and that was that. So,
You've done a Nick Smith, but with all the scores, we've been doing high scores. You've been missing them all.
Yeah, done a Smith.
He's done a Smith in the player rating section.
Full of surprises, Nick. Full of surprises.
Right, Nick, you can take over with the Raptor. Tidy as ever, but perhaps not his best game so far, but not taking any away from him. He just takes the pressure off, doesn't he, with the ball at his feet?
And he's always trying to make things happen, even when it doesn't come off. He doesn't, his head doesn't drop. He still just tries a minute later to go and take his man on again, or he'll cut inside, and try and get a cross in. So I think it's on the fielding player rating system, I will go a very strong 7+.
There you go, Brad. That's working with professionals here. You may hit this level one day.
I've got a lot of living up, working to that level, I can assure you.
At least you've not dropped out, though.
All right.
I'm from a certain vintage, John.
I've lost my train of thought. Who's up next? Is it you, Matt?
I'll go for it, whoever it is.
You can have Carl Joseph.
Oh, yeah. What a different player he is, isn't he? He's just
one of about 6 players in this squad who are reborn.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll hold my hand up and, I'll give myself a pat on the back rather, because I've said a few times that there's a player in there and we just need to get him out. And, this is the system to do it. Give him something to run onto and give him some crosses to get on the end of. And he'll do the business for us. And he, again, as we've mentioned already, it's a confidence thing. It's no lack of ability in these players necessarily. It's all about the confidence and being just in a different sort of mindset than what's been done before. So, yeah, I thought he was excellent again. He just looks like the sort of player now as a striker. You just think he can actually score every game now. He looks hungry for it. He really does look hungry for it.
It's his work rate as well, Matt. I forgot to.
It is. It's his bloody work rate.
In my Huddersfield notes, I actually wrote this down. Sorry, the Charlton notes as I watched this. It was on 60 minutes. I've written down here, Joseph runs 3/4 of the length of the pitch to get the ball back in his own half and start another move off. You don't see Ashley Fletcher doing that, do you?
No, absolutely. And I was just about to say that I'm sure there were times last night, even though Ashley Fletcher had been on the pitch like 10 minutes, Joseph was running past him to try and close the player down. Maybe that was just my imagination, but that's how it sort of appeared, because he's just everywhere, isn't he? So, 8+ from Joseph, maybe even 9, who knows?
Yeah.
I do think that Swansea have made a mistake getting rid of Joseph. I really do.
You can see the comparisons now to Jerry Yates, can't you, in terms of the work rate? And
I think he's at the moment, in terms of his development, he's on par with Jerry Yates. But I think if Brucie and Dobby and that and Cohn do what they need to do with him, he's going to surpass Jerry by a mile. And I'm not getting our head over ourselves. We're 3 games in, but I'm looking forward to the next game. And I'm hoping we're in a situation where it's Boxing Day. We've filled ourselves full of turkey and all that malarkey, and we go to Wrexham and go, do you know what? Fancy this.
Need you Andy Garner back for that to slot his pen in. Nick, we've not done Don Ballard. I'm just looking on FotMob now, and he only got 6.3. I think that's incredibly harsh score from the data robots there. We just show what we were missing after he went off.
That's the thing. Like I say, even if he's not necessarily, put the ball in the back of the net, he still does bring a lot to the team, and we miss him when he's not there. I think I'd go.
Didn't he slot CJ in for his goal as well? I'm sure he played through.
Yep.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. I think I would go a solid 8 for me. I'm really unfortunate with the injury as well. He tried to play on the second half, didn't he? And you could see how disappointed he was to have to come off. And I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that it isn't as serious as it sounds like it could be, because he's going to be a big miss.
He will. Right, man of the match. This is going to be extremely difficult. I'd probably say there's 6 solid contenders for this.
Have we done CJ?
We forgot CJ, John.
Oh, how come? Yeah, he's actually the star man. Sorry. How can we forget CJ? Poor
He's done a
CJ.
Smith.
Touche.
Right, I'll be very,
on the
very
player
quick.
ratings.
Yeah, I'll be very quick with it. I thought he was, he's a I don't know, different player as well, isn't he? Playing in the right position, confident, quick as anybody, quicker than anybody, mostly. Could be potentially a man of the match performance, set one up, scored one. And obviously, a constant threat when we go forward. Just looks a very good player again. Looks like a player that contract again, doesn't he, really? Rather than the one that we were all not wanting to be on a 3-year contract last season. So, give him a 9 as well.
Okay, in the viewers in the comments, there's a mixed bag for the Man of the Match award. Bob Harris says Evans. Mark says, just speaking of Man of the Match, Steve South, CJ, Servitor Tyrer, CJ, the vote for Gabriel.
It's a real mixed bag, isn't it?
Yeah, don't
Did it
let
good?
yourselves be influenced, gents.
It's only
What's
a
coming
good
from
thing.
your heart there, Brad? It's very tough, this. Very tough.
I'm going to go Morgan.
Nick.
I think his work rate is infectious.
Nick.
I'm just going to the comments. I'm going to agree with Bison's. I think it was Gabriel for me. I thought he had a great game, but I wouldn't disagree with 5 or 6 others. Like you say, CJ. He had that one in the first half where he probably should have put his foot through it. But other than that, I thought he was brilliant. Joseph, work rate all over the place again. Coulson, very, very close as well for me. But yeah, I'm going to go with Jordan Gabriel.
Matt.
Yeah, I think it could have been any one of the back 4. I know that we scored 2 away from goal from home. Sorry, and Joseph was really instrumental in that up front, and CJ was as well, of course. I will go just because he played out of position. Well, not out of position, but in that position for the first time. I'll go Coulson.
Coulson. I'm not going to pick.
But it could have been anybody, couldn't it?
Yeah. I don't.
Except for maybe one player. I don't know.
It's hard to look beyond CJ's obviously the obvious pick, but the back 4 as a unit. I tell you, I'm going to pick the back 4. No, the defensive unit. That's what I'm going to pick. I've gone off piece.
Unbelievable.
Manager rating.
Oh,
You've got to be high, hasn't it? It's got to be a 9.
It's in the 9s. Yeah.
Yeah, and with the subs, he's had to make the early one with Ballard. He's made the call there because could see that he couldn't continue, and then he's certainly not one for waiting till kind of 70th or 80th minute, is he, for subs? He's not afraid to make them early if we need to, injuries aside. But yeah, I think just for he's kept it simple in terms of the formation. And I don't know if you mentioned this when I was off air, but at the end of the game, I like the way he just kind of lets the players go and take the plaudits. Gives the fans a bit of a wave. There's none of this kind of
no fisting. There's no fisting. No fisting from Brucie.
No badge patting in heart shapes and any of that. But if you look at the reaction of the players, as he's waiting and shaking all of the hands as they come off the pitch, just how happy the players look with him. You know, they're embracing him as he's coming off the pitch, and it looks like there's it's early days, but there just seems to be such a togetherness already, and you can see how much they believe in what he's asking them to do. That was really pleasing to see last night at the end of the game.
What was the score you gave, Nick?
9.
Matt?
Yeah, can't disagree with any of that, really. He seems to be very popular amongst the group, doesn't he? He's just doing the right things, probably giving him a bit of a kiss and a cuddle and all that, and just playing me in the right position, boss, is all they probably wanted to hear from him, and they are, and he's getting the most out of them. So, yeah, he didn't do anything wrong, did he? So 9, yeah.
Did you give a score, Brad? Can't remember.
No, I haven't.
Oh, yeah.
I'm debating. I was trying to defer as long as possible because deep down I'm crying inside that what I'm about to say. Reflecting on the game last night and the previous games into consideration as well, what he has done to this team, he has completely galvanised them. They've got confidence. Yeah, he's playing them in the right position. He's playing a 4-4-2, you know, not some diagonal bloody bollocks or anything like that at all. They're from the previous regime. But Nick quite rightly put it earlier. You know, one thing that I really liked was he shook everyone's hand. He complimented the game. He wasn't scared, you know, and his confidence reflecting through. And I'm excited to see what it brings. We're only 3 games in, but reflecting on that game, I was absolutely over the moon, and I can take whatever stick comes my way because that was a solid performance. And if we're going to continue to play like that, then we're going to be very happy indeed, you know. And I think one thing that the manager's going to need, and I'm going to back Brucie up, which I can't believe I'm fucking saying right now, is Simon really needs to get in his pocket in the January window. This squad is good at the moment, but it's one of them where he's got to invest in the squad and be able to develop and get the depth going because it's a long season. So if Brucie does what he's doing at the moment, and he's making use of what he's got, and he knows he's got a good squad, I think he's going to do phenomenally well. And I'm over the moon about it. I'm going to give him a 9-.
Right. Mitch's stat attack, but Mitch isn't here, so I'll just read a few out just before we head off. Obviously got the Burton preview just before we go. Blackpool have been unbeaten in the league since Critchley left. Steve Bruce 3 wins out of 3 in the league. Won 4 from Blackpool have won 4 from our last 5 all games. Scored 12 in the last 6. Sorry, 13 now. 13 goals equal second top scorers in the league. An important one, first clean sheet in 8 games last night. Lee Evans is also ranked the number 1 in the league for big chances created. So think back to where we were against Stockport County, and then what was that away defeat? It was so bad of white.
Crawley. Crawley, even, sorry, wrong division. Ended with an LEY.
Think back how desperate we were to where we are now. It's an incredible change.
Yeah, I mean, we're a fickle bunch at the best of times, aren't we, as football fans? But we can see, you know, things are changing in the right direction, and if we can keep players fit, there's no reason why this team can't keep us in the hunt come January. And then, as Brad says, if we can add 1 or 2 quality players in January potentially, then who knows? We said at the start of this season that it was going to be tough because of, you know, the money bags at Birmingham and at Wrexham and Stockport as well. I mean, they've got a massive squad, haven't they? As well as other teams like Peterborough, etc., etc. Huddersfield themselves, I'm sure they won't be too far away. They're obviously having a sticky patch at the moment. But, you know, from our pre-season sort of doom and gloom to where we are now, and it's only taken, well, let's say 5 games really, because we had a couple of decent draws under Richard Keogh, didn't we? Despite the 4 goals conceded at Cambridge, you could see there was sort of shoots of recovery during those 2 games. And we're in a much better place now, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, just before we head off, let's move on to a quick chat about Burton. Nick, you've done a bit of research for this, haven't you? Thrown a few things together.
Yes, I have. So they are played 6, drawn 4, lost 2 in the league, so yet to get a win. They've lost at home to Lincoln and Barnsley and drawn with Mansfield, Northampton, Rotherham and Stevenage. Obviously, we played them in the Cup and beat them 4-0 in the first round of the Carabao. They played 2 games in the EFL Trophy, won 1, lost 1. So not the best start for them. And like I said earlier on in the show, it'll be interesting on Saturday to see what they do when they turn up. You know, we will rightly are all buzzing after these last 2 games, and we need to be careful. It's not after the Lord Mayor's show and that we're not complacent. And potentially we might have to grind it out on Saturday. You know, if they turn up and stick 10 men behind the ball and we've not got the space on the wings, then we might need to find a different way. If Ballard isn't playing, then potentially, you know, you play Fletcher and it's perhaps not saying long ball, but you've got a bit of physicality there and we can maybe do it a little bit differently if we need to. So I don't think it'll be easy, but hopefully we will have enough quality.
Any thoughts on this game, gents, before we go around the room and give predictions and go home?
Yeah, one of the things I did see about Burton is that they signed, I think it's something like 23 players this summer, which probably might account for their sort of sticky start to the season, that they haven't quite gelled. And amongst those 23, they've lost a few through injury. So, a very small amount of sympathy for them. But, it's one of those, isn't it, that Burton can be that banana skin. I'm trying to think of the game we had last year when we had a really good away win. Was it Portsmouth? And then we'd lost at home to Northampton and everyone was giddy after winning at Portsmouth, and then we screwed it up against Northampton at home. I'm sure there are some players that were involved in that will be involved on Saturday and be thinking about that. But yeah, you get the feeling that we're on a bit of a wave of optimism and confidence at the moment. So even if there is that enforced change with Ballard or another, perhaps, who knows, we'll hopefully have enough to beat Burton on Saturday.
Brad, as Mark's just said there, playing Saturday, Tuesday again against determined opponents, can we afford to rotate the starting 11? It's a good conversation piece for the Burton game.
Yeah, I think for the subs that we've got, I think we can afford to do it, and we've just quite rightly said when we were talking about Brucie on his stats and his the way we were scoring him, he's not scared to make a change, whether that's in the first half or the second half. So, I do think trying to play the same 11 is going to tire the players out a lot more in the long season that we've got. So by giving an opportunity for the sub to strengthen, and build more confidence, I think that is more needed more than ever. So yeah, no, it's a great question. Burton are a good side from when we played them last season, but we are at our home turf and we've got the 12 man to help support the team as much as we can. But yeah, Nick was right what he said. We've had a buzzing 3 games. Fortunate with Sheffield Wednesday, but we played very, very well and we held their hands pretty high. But I think we need to keep a level playing field, keep a level head. Brucie to instill the game plan again and how he wants to do it. And I think when you're looking at the first 11 and the subs, they're all singing on the same song sheet. So if they do change it up, I've got every confidence that we can do something in the game.
Right, gents, around the room, just before we go, starting with you, Nick, match prediction for Burton.
Like I said, I have a feeling we might just have to dig it out, but we will do. So I'm going to go 1-0.
Only 1-0. Matt, penny for your thoughts.
Yeah, I think it'll be close, actually, weirdly, as well. So I'm going to go 2-1.
Ooh.
Brad, they've only scored 8 goals. They've let 10 in against free scoring Blackpool. Surely there's at least 2 goals in it for us. And I'm going to go for 2-0 before you say yours.
Oh, slipped it right in there. I was 3-1.
I'll get a lot of comments. Yeah. I
think we're going to be at home. The fans are going to be bouncing. They're going to be singing all the way, you know, and we'll give Burton the run for their money and beat them.
It's a refreshing change to be actually looking forward to the home games these days as well, as opposed to dreading them and me having to bribe my son to go and watch them. Right, I think we'll leave it there, gents. Thanks for the chat as ever, and an hour and 15 of pure podcasting gold. Brad, what's your second appearance called? Is there a name for it in a football term?
God, what, the groveler?
There's a lot of people with egg on their face in Blackpool fans supporting circles, and you're not the only one. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for downloading. And up the pool. Go on, Brucie.
Up the pool. Up the pool.
Hang on a minute. Where's the old outro video? There it is.
Been involved in 2. Can he make 3? Not on this occasion. Well taken by Walsh. Davis is on the far side. Ainscough coming square. That's the ball. That's a good try!